guys, I wanted to make a video to complement the blog post for those of you who don't like to read but still want to learn about what it takes to be a first-time home buyer. So we're going to dive right in and keep it as short as we possibly can with first-time buyers. There's a lot of information to learn, so I will do my best, okay? First and foremost, we want to figure out what budget we're working with. And to do that, you're going to want to speak with a mortgage broker or a bank. I'd always recommend a mortgage broker over a bank just because they can shop around for different rates for you, and they will answer you on evenings and weekends most of the time, and that's something that we definitely appreciate in the Toronto market. Once you figure out your budget, we can now start honing in and narrowing down the area of where you want to be. And we can sit down and talk about that depending on your lifestyle, wants and needs, and so forth. So I like to break this down in 3 major sections for my clients to simplify it. First section being your finances. This is something that your mortgage broker is going to deal with. Second section is the actual search and the offer presentation and negotiations. This is something that your real estate agent will be taking care of, as well as being the resource for all of your contacts and things that you'll need throughout the transaction. The third side of things and the third section is the lawyer and the legal side of things, right? So the lawyer reviewing the contract, making sure that there's no issues, and we'll get into that in a bit. All right, so we'll jump straight into section number 1, which is your financing section. The first thing you'll want to know is how much you can actually afford, and to do that, you will sit down with your mortgage broker, and they'll be able to calculate that for you based on your income, your credit history, and the amount of cash you have on hand for the transaction. Now, not all of the cash that you have will go directly towards your down payment. You want to leave some of that for your closing costs. The closing costs to consider are your lawyer. You're looking at about $1,500 to $2,500 for that service. Your land transfer tax. This is actually the biggest killer for most people, especially because in Toronto, you are looking at a double land transfer tax, meaning provincial and municipal. Outside of the boundaries of Toronto, so outside of Scarborough, outside of Etobicoke, and north of Steeles, you're looking at only provincial land transfer tax. So this is also something to consider. To give you guys an idea, a starter home, let's say for $550,000, a condo in Toronto, you're looking at about $7,500 for provincial land transfer tax and the same amount for municipal. So you're looking at $15,000 of land transfer tax. Now, there is an incentive for first-time home buyers. As a first-time home buyer, you get a rebate off of that amount of $8,500, and that brings you down to $6,500 for land transfer tax. Last thing I want to mention here is that there are minimum requirements for the amount of down payment that you have to put. So when you're looking at a $500,000 property, your down payment is only 5%. That's the requirement. So you're looking at $25,000. Now, it's 10% for anything above $500,000. So if you're looking for a property at $750,000 purchase price, you're going to need to put down $50,000. So $25,000 on the first $500,000 and another $25,000 on the next $250,000. The next section is your actual house hunt. You'll sit down with your agent and you'll discuss your must-haves, your wants, the area that you want to be in, and the strategy moving forward. But ultimately, what we're doing all of this for is to be able to go out in person and see these places. So you can touch it, you can smell it, you can walk around it, and you can really visualize whether or not you can see yourself living there. So now moving on to the educational side of things, the main things that you'll need to know as a buyer is what market are we in? Are we in a seller's market or are we in a buyer's market? What does this mean? This basically means, can I lowball an offer, or am I going to be expecting a multiple offer situation where I might have to pay more and bid on a property? The reality of the Toronto market is that we've been in a seller's market or a hot market for a few years now. So you are looking, especially in the lower price ranges where a lot of first-time home buyers find themselves, you will see yourself potentially bidding against other buyers. Now, there are certain things that we can do to make your offer more irresistible. And in order to understand what those things are, I have to go through what a typical offer would look like in a neutral market. So normally when you're coming in to buy a property, you would put it on paper and you'd say, hey, I'm ready to offer you $550,000 for your property, but this offer is conditional upon me arranging my financing, which means my mortgage, and my lawyer to review the status certificate of the building and making sure that there's no issues. Now, if any of these two conditions are not fulfilled or something is not up to my satisfaction, I can cancel this offer and my deposit comes back to me in full and we are done. So from the seller's perspective, the sale is not a done deal until those conditions are fulfilled, and this means that the offer can fall apart. Now, in a hot market where we see ourselves competing against other people, the buyers started coming in firm without any of those conditions, so they can sway the seller to pick them. If you're a seller and you're looking at 5 offers, let's say, and they're all very similar in price, but one of them is offering you, all the terms without any conditions, I'm always going to be swayed towards that offer because I know this is already done. I don't have to wait for anybody to figure out their financing, and the potential of the deal falling through is eliminated. This doesn't mean that you're going into an offer blindly though. It just means that we'll do our due diligence before presenting an offer. That's pretty much it for the offer. While we were going over it, we kind of jumped into section number 3, which was your lawyer. And the lawyer simply reviews all of the documentation to make sure that there's no issues, there's no liens. The title is what's called clear, and the lawyer will work on switching the property to your name for the transaction. So now you are firm and you're waiting for your closing date, which is the day that you receive your keys, your down payment gets withdrawn, and your first mortgage payment comes out, and the property is yours.